So, at the beginning of the movie, we see a movie crew. They're searching for a good location to shoot in the jungle, and night falls. There were 3 of them, the 2 main men and their cameraman. But she had lost her way and was wandering around the jungle, returning to the same spot over and over again. This meant they were all lost. So, the 3 of them began looking for a good spot to pitch their tent. But during their search, they spotted a man standing in front of them, waiting for them. When he turned his face, they were shocked to see he was wearing a strange mask. They were terrified and quickly fled. Obviously, anyone standing in the middle of the jungle with such a mask would be in a state of panic. Well, the masked man wasn't alone. He had 2 other companions, one of whom was a girl. The man on the movie crew takes his mobile phone out of his bag to check for signal, hoping to call for help. But then a masked man arrives and kills him with a chainsaw, leaving only 2 members of the crew, a woman and a cameraman. But even those poor people don't survive for long, as a masked killer kills the woman and another cameraman. They too suffer a horrific death, all recorded on the cameraman's camera. The scene shifts, and we see another movie crew. This one also consists of only 3 members, a girl named Hope, her partner, and a cameraman. A producer had asked them to find a suitable cabin for their short film, but they couldn't find one anywhere. But Hawk suggested that they might find one in the woods. Then they all hopped into a car and headed off into the woods. Then, they stop at a gas station to fill up the car. The cameraman, who was filling up the car and recording everything, explains that the producer had instructed him to record everything. "That's why I'm doing this," he said. "The producer has said that the camera should never be turned off." Then, they all go into the forest. They spot a cabin in the middle of the forest. Hope's companion, named Bun, is terrified. He insists they should leave, but Hope ignores him and starts going inside when she hears a girl screaming from inside. So, they all go inside to investigate. They see that a TV is on, and the screaming is actually coming from that TV. They start checking the entire cabin. Then, they find the cabin's owner. He gets angry at them, but they tell him everything. They heard the screaming coming from the cabin. That's why they came inside. Here, Hope tells the cabin owner, "We'd like to rent this cabin for 2 days. The cabin owner, considering the circumstances, asks for $2,000 for 2 days, which is too much. He's actually taking advantage of their helplessness. Since they still have to make the movie, Hope offers him $750 a day. The owner initially refuses, but later agrees, believing it's a good amount for him. Hope gives her the money, and the owner is about to leave, but he pauses, forbidding them from going any deeper into the forest, as there's a group of people living inside who might not like them. He explains that many members of that group used to live there, but then the government came and drove them away. Some of them left, while others remained hidden in the forest. After sharing these details, Honor leaves. Hope and Ben are overjoyed, having found this cabin with great difficulty, which would be perfect for their short film. Hope shares this news with the producer, who says he'll be coming to see it soon. Celebrating the cabin's success, Hope, Ben, and cameraman Hope share drinks, then head out into the woods to find a suitable location. They notice that the entire forest is perfect for their film. While Hope is checking around, she sees someone walking through the bushes, but she doesn't pay much attention. The 3 of them then go inside the cabin and look at the locations where they shot in the woods. They begin checking the camera and see the same masked man in the video shown at the beginning. This alarms Hope. She asks Bun to close all the cabin's windows and doors. Shortly after, the producer arrives. They explain everything to the producer and show him the footage. However, he insists it must be just some kid playing a prank. The producer tells them to stay put. Hope doesn't want to stay there. The producer says they'll spend the night elsewhere, but they'll have to wait a little while because a colleague is coming to check the cabin. She tells Bun, who is sitting near the window, to pack his things. As Hope looks out the window, she sees the same masked man, and luckily, everything was recorded on camera. She immediately informs the producer of everything. He's just about to check the camera when someone knocks on the door. When the producer goes out to check, there's no one there. The producer thinks it's just a kid's prank, so he goes back inside. Per explains to Bun that they're overthinking things. Don't worry so much, and says they should start shooting their short film. Just as he's talking, there's another knock on the door. This time, when the producer goes out to check, There are the same 3 masked killers. The producer approaches them and threatens them to leave, but they don't even move. Then, suddenly, one of the men hits the producer on the head with a hammer, causing him to bleed profusely and die a painful death. The cameraman quickly comes back inside with his camera. All 3 are utterly shocked by what has happened to the producer. Well, now it's clear why there was no signal, because the masked killers had a device that blocks signals. The trouble was getting worse as the lights went out. The masked killers were standing outside, waiting for Hope, Ben, and the cameraman. Hope said, "We need weapons to defend ourselves." So they went into the kitchen and took a knife each. They also found flashlights there, which they also took. The 3 of them entered another room, and a masked man was standing outside. Just then, the lights came back on, and Hope found a box downstairs containing several CDs. One of them had a girl's name written on it. Hope put it in the DVD player and played it. Inside, there was footage of the same girl. The masked men forcibly took her outside, bound her hands and feet. Then, they ran a lawnmower over her face, ravaging her entire face. The girl died in agony. The terrifying thing was that the room where the girl was sleeping was actually a room in this cabin. This meant that whoever the masked men were, they had been doing this for a long time. They would kill anyone who came to this cabin or the forest. They would also film them. Now, after careful consideration, they ask the masked men themselves, "What do you want?" They say they just want the girl. This means Hope. This makes Hope even more nervous. She then tries to convince the masked woman that she didn't do anything. She's just a filmmaker, so she should let them go. But of course the masked killers wouldn't listen, and Bun also tries to convince Hope that these people won't understand anything. Just then, the producer's partner arrives in a car, and Hope tells Bun that the 3 of them can get to the car. They were just discussing how they would reach his car when the masked killers sent a video to Hope's phone. Upon playing the video, they saw that the killers had captured the producer's partner and were brutally beating him with a drill. They were torturing him. The brutality escalated when they began pulling out his nails. Unsatisfied, they killed him. Everyone was horrified by this. Not only that, but they also came to the window with the producer's partner's body and punctured the tires of his car, meaning they had completely foiled their plan to reach his car. Now, stay away from the killers. He goes in to try to find signals so he can call the police. But he returns even faster than he left, as the 3 of them had also attacked Ben, leaving him in a critical condition. Once inside, Ben notices that only 2 killers are outside the window. Where did the 3rd one go? Wondering if he had gotten inside, they began checking the cabin to see if he had gotten in. Ben had even kept a roving knife nearby for his safety. When they both enter the room, everything is scattered. When Ben approaches the bed to check the situation, the 3rd killer, who had been hiding under the bed, comes out and grabs Ben's legs. Then, Ben thrusts the crowbar into the killer's face, killing him instantly. The 2 remaining killers outside attempt to burn the entire cabin down to force Hope, Ben, and the cameraman out. They each take a camera with them to record everything. But then the lights go out, and the masked lady attacks them. Hope, who had quickly escaped the cabin, runs into the woods to escape. Inside the cabin, the lights return, and the masked lady attacks Bun. She had been holding him from behind, and Bun, without wasting any time, plunges the knife into Bun's neck, killing the lady. The cameraman and Bun then escape from the cabin and flee. However, due to the darkness outside, they become separated. Meanwhile, Hope continues on through the woods, but is suddenly attacked by the last remaining man with a massive knife. Hope manages to escape and reach her car. However, the killer appears with a chainsaw, forcing Hope to flee once again. The cameraman receives the signal, and as he begins to call the police, another masked man arrives. He attacks the cameraman from behind and kills him. This killer wasn't the same killer from the Chaso. This means there were many others out there doing similarly dangerous things. Hope ran to the road. A car was coming, carrying none other than the cabin owner. Hope got into the car, told the owner everything, and asked for help. But instead of helping, the owner started taking Hope back to the cabin. And then we learned the shocking news that the owner was one of those masked men. Realizing this, Hope plunged a knife into the cabin owner's stomach and escaped. Then we saw Bon, still on the run from the masked men. But then he reached an old cabin, where he found the cameraman's body. When Pan went inside to check, the killer suddenly appeared in front of him, armed with a chasso. He also attacks Pen with a chainsaw, killing him. Meanwhile, Ho records a message, saying, "This could be my last message. I want to tell anyone who finds this video to hunt down and kill these masked men with the help of the police." She then begins to look for a way out. Meanwhile, a man with a mask was recording Hope, and Hope discovers this, so she sets a trap for the killer. She sets a trap to catch him. As soon as he falls into the trap, Hope quickly smashes the last killer's head with a rock. She kills him with her relentless attacks. Hope is about to flee, but the man with the chainsaw arrives and cuts Hope's stomach with a chopstick. Hope continues to run, still pursuing the killer. He finds him, but this time, Hope plunges his knife into his chest. He ripped her apart and eventually killed her as well. We then see a video of Hope's statement about her survival. It's a podcast in which she recounts how her friends were killed by the masked men. "I was almost killed too, but I faced them and barely escaped." She then reveals that she's going to make a big movie about these things. After the podcast, Hope goes home to sleep. Meanwhile, someone sneaks into her house and starts recording video. It turns out it was none other than one of those masked men. He then finally kills Hope as well. This means that poor Hope, who was supposedly happy to have escaped the killer, is the only survivor. But they didn't spare the poor thing either. As we know, in addition to the dead mass killers, there were many others who had been stalking her ever since, and they killed her as soon as they got the chance. These mass killers kill anyone who comes here, because according to them, the forest is their home, and they don't spare anyone who comes here, because they don't want anyone other than them to enter. They believed that city dwellers coming into the forest were destroying their land, their way of life, and most importantly, their very lives, which they couldn't tolerate. Now, according to them, they were protecting their home, the forest, but in a very dangerous way, because killing anyone without reason is absolutely wrong. Therefore, we would call them crazy psycho killers. They even make movies about them to prove that we do this to anyone who tries to tease us. And with this horrific ending, the movie ends here.